Super smart.
The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
So we've got 9 kids combined, but Richie's got most of them. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Steven Zakash, joined by my co-host Mike and our special guest today. We are talking about one of the most crucial aspects of business success, and that's building community and meaningful connections. So whether within an organization or between brands and customers or across industries, a strong sense of community fuels long-term trust, engagement, and impact. And it's just more fun and fulfilling when you're working in a thriving community. Mike, introduce our guest today as we dive into this topic.
Oh, I'm excited to do so, Steve. Our listeners today are in for a real treat. Our guest today is Richard Huffman. He's the founder and CEO of Celebree School. As a leader in early childhood education, Richie has built a franchise that not only focuses on academic development, but also fosters trust and lasting relationships with families, educators, and franchisees. With a commitment to a purpose-driven growth, Celebree School has become a model for how businesses can scale while maintaining a deep sense of connection and care, which we know for our audience is key. So, Richie, welcome to the show. We are so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Yep. So maybe we can start off with we're going to talk a lot about community, I think, today. So why is it that you believe that community is such an essential part of having a successful business?
Well, I think, as you mentioned earlier, I think just here at Celebree, we're part of a community. We're providing an amazing service to communities through our preschool and through our Celebree. So, I think we're talking a lot about empathy, and I think that I've been blessed to be a part of a business, founded a business that you can't help but to be empathetic, and because we're talking about children and we're talking about the development of children, and if you can't get passionate and empathetic and about children and their development and the impact that you're having, you probably don't have a heartbeat. So I've probably been pretty blessed on having a business, starting a business that all of that takes place in.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So why don't we dive in a little bit here on, when we talk about community, it means different things in different contexts. From your experience, what defines a true business community?
When you say community, I think we also use the word relationships. And as the CEO, I think relationships and creating relationships and having community connections, I think that's probably one of the most important jobs as a CEO and as a business owner, is because when we say community and creating relationships, I think we're really creating open doors, right? We're opening doors into our world and into the other folks' world. So, one of my main jobs, and I actually have it written here on my board, my job is to create those relationships and build relationships inside the communities that we operate in. And I have like 5 key relationships that I'm constantly looking at creating. And number one is the relationships between myself and our franchise partners. And so that relationship to me is extremely important. The second one is my relationship with philanthropy, and making sure that we have direct connections. And as I mentioned before, opening doors to the opportunity to serve through philanthropy from a Celebree perspective as a school, but also through the Huffman Family Foundation. My third one is business leaders, other business leaders that I need to create relationships to open those doors and those pathways of communication. And can we do business together? Is there synergy here between us and your business. And then lastly, and not lastly, but another one is political relationships. My job as the CEO is to make sure that we have political relationships, to make sure that we're continuously fighting for policy and dollars that help us keep our schools open and operating. And the last one is my executive team, making sure that those doors are open and I have a strong relationships with the key executives here at the Huffman Family Brands.
Yeah, it's definitely this, you can tell it's this conscious capitalist kind of approach where you're just thinking about all the different stakeholders that include go out into your community and, not just within your own doors.
Yeah, and as you guys mentioned, relationships are everything. And as I mentioned, I look at relationships as an open door to and that door, that way they say that door swings both ways, right? My franchise partners want a relationship with me and they need me, and I want a relationship with our franchise partners and I need them, and that goes across all the relationships that I just mentioned that I really take a lot of time and focus on.
Yeah. So Rich, we've talked a number of times about, philanthropy here on this show, and also as well as authenticity. So I'm curious in terms of like, how does authenticity, come into play with that, and what is the importance, I guess, of authenticity in you mentioned those relationships, right? They've got to be authentic. They probably can't be fake.
Yeah.
How does that play into it?
I don't know. I don't know how you can fake a relationship. I mean, to be honest with you, there's been a few times where people have, asked me to come meet with them or be a part of something. And I just can't, because I don't have the same values. I don't have the same beliefs. And I'm not a guy that will just go out there and fake it because it's in the best interest of the brand or the family. Like that's really important to me. As far as a philanthropy is concerned or considered, I think we've done an amazing job. It's just funny how that's unveiled itself through the years. We were very philanthropic here in Maryland, where we're headquartered. I remember one of our children that we care for in the Celebree School's mom came and knocked on my door and said that my child was just diagnosed with leukemia. And what are you going to do? How can you help? And what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm not sure. Give me a couple minutes. And it really got us on the path of giving back and being very philanthropic. And because of that, we were part of the Light the Night and helped raise a lot of money through philanthropy or through that organization. And it just snowballed from there. And here in Maryland, we're big supporters of the Ronald McDonald House and Johns Hopkins Hospital. And as we started to expand in other states, we really took this philanthropic outlook with us. And that's a big part and a part of the brand now. When you're a Celebree franchise partner, you are required to be a part of philanthropic. So all the 17 states that we operate in today, guys, we have a relationship with the Ronald McDonald House, and we have a relationship with one of the children's hospital. And so, not only does the Huffman Family Brands participate in that, but our franchise partners, but also importantly, is our children and our families that we serve inside of our schools. So that's how deep and how wide philanthropy can really go. And it's actually been amazing.
Yeah. No, and I love the natural connection that you have, through children, right? So if you're educating children, but then also, helping those that, are facing some sort of challenge or difficulty in life, and, working with kids, even in other ways.
Yeah. That's why I said earlier, Michael, that it's, I don't know if it's just been that easy or we've really focused on it. But when you're talking about children, man, dealing with, caring for children and the well-being of children, it can go in so many different directions. And I'm really happy in the directions that it's taken us of, number one, providing amazing preschool services for these children and helping them meet their developmental milestones and ultimately getting ready prepare for kindergarten, but also, as you mentioned, from a philanthropic standpoint, like a Ronald McDonald House.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems to flow naturally. So, in what it was kind of interesting, right? So you're not just really running schools in terms of the work that you're doing. It sounds like in the intro, we might have mentioned it briefly, that you're building trust networks really with the families, the educators, and even those franchise owners. And in preparation for the show, I came across this Harvard Business Review study that mentioned that it had found that 69% of consumers saw that they were more loyal to brands that actively build community. Right? I mean, that stat probably doesn't surprise you, I would imagine.
No,
right?
not at all. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because everything Celebree really stands for, and it starts with me and it goes down the entire organization. Celebree by itself, with its brands, without even including our franchise partners, we have over 1,400 employees and we care for over 7,500 children. And the one thing that keeps us connected through the entire organization is our commitment to grow people big and small. And that's another thing that just continues to go all the way down the organization. And that starts with our franchise partners. That starts with us helping them grow in their profession. Meaning a lot of our franchise partners are looking to get out of the corporate world and looking to become entrepreneurs. So you're right. We're in the preschool business, but I'm really in the business of creating entrepreneurs and creating business owners through the Celebree platform. And then, so if we follow the grow people big and small, my job is, and our job is, to help create entrepreneurs. Their job as franchise partners is then to grow our teachers and make sure that they're prospering in their careers. And we do that in two ways. We do that by putting our teachers on a career path, and we do that by putting them on a skill path. And then from there, they're growing our little ones and making sure that they're milestones and prospering and ready to enter kindergarten. So once we discovered this grow people big and small rally call or mantra, man, it just totally changed the entire organization and really changed me as a person.
Wow. Yeah, I think we see that when a company can focus on benefiting those that are working for them and putting them on a better path, it just gains momentum and kind of scales from there. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, and having the mindset that we want everyone to prosper inside the Huffman family brands and inside of Celebree School. And it's super, super powerful, and people want to be a part of that. 60% of our new employees are coming from our competitors, and they're coming from our competitors for this one reason, because they know they can grow here.
Wow.
Richard, we've got a question from a LinkedIn user. It says, have you noticed a shift in children's emotional well-being over the years? If so, how have you adapted your approach?
That is a great question. We've adopted in many different ways. We've actually created safe spaces inside of our schools. The whole philosophy of timeout, that does not work. It never did work. We really want to help. Our job is to help our students and our children regulate their emotions. That is the number one ask of our kindergarten teachers before they leave Celebree. It doesn't matter if they know their ABCs or their 1, 2, 3s. It's not about academics. It is, but what most of our teachers are looking for, our kindergarten and elementary ed teachers are looking for, and our parents, is, can these children regulate their emotions? And so we really work hard to help them do that through just being in a high quality preschool setting helps with that. I mean, if anything we learned coming through or coming out of the pandemic was that these children needed the social and emotional surroundings and environment for them to prosper in.
Yeah. How did you navigate that time during the pandemic?
Wow. It seems so long ago, right? It was just, it seems so long ago. And I say this, and I say, if you remember, every state would, I think it was tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And so, and each tier meant something. And I tell you, I describe it this way. If they gave us an inch, we took a foot, right? Because we knew how important it was to get our schools back to full capacity and get these children back in the learning environment that they so so desired. So, we never closed. Celebree schools never closed. We went from 90% capacity across the entire enterprise down to 40, and we never dipped below that. Because as you remember, we also had to make sure that these essential workers were able to go to work and take care of our communities. So we were still open, taking care of our doctors and our police officers and our nurses and our firefighters, children. And from there, we just continued to grow. And man, when we got back to full swing, if you want to call it that, we had children join us that, if you remember, that were born during the pandemic and never even been around children before.
Oh wow!
But children adopt very easy, and again, as we know for a fact, that these children must be in an environment where they can help regulate their emotions and be in a stable social and emotional environment.
Yeah, what an incredible stage in their life that you probably, for sure, you've set them on a different trajectory than they probably would have been otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah. For all of us, right? It was all crazy time. We were all trying to figure this thing out, but we did a really great job, and I'm so blessed to lead this team here. And I say all the time, if we didn't have the resources that we do, and we didn't have the team members that we have, I don't know where we'd be today.
When you think about the idea of community, did it really kick in during that time more so than you've ever seen? Mm-hmm. Or, everyone kind of rallied. How did you guys deal with it?
Until you mentioned that, yes, we did. A lot of our competitors, literally closed. And so during the pandemic, we were learning, right? I remember we were learning how to, when each child came in and each parent came in, we had to take temperature checks, and we had to do all kinds of crazy things. So as other schools, our competitors, started to reopen, we really stepped forward and said, let us show you. And it sounds so silly at this point, right? Like what we're even talking about. But if you weren't playing the game the way we were playing the game, then they didn't know how to play the game. So they're like, how do you do these temperature checks, and how do you do this, and how do you do that? So Celebree, one of our goals is to be the recognized leader in early education. So we really took that as an opportunity for us to share best practices with our fellow brands that are also in early education.
Yeah, I love that so much, because I know I mentioned that at the beginning of the show, community around industries. And so sometimes this is like a perfect example of that, where, you kind of work together sometimes, especially in times like that, for sure.
Stephen, I even forgot that. It seems so long ago, but we knew that, first of all, again, in order for us to be the recognized leader, then we have to be the role model. And so we did reach out to our fellow preschool providers and said, we actually, said, if you want to come in our schools and come watch us with these processes, you're more than welcome. But we got to get these children back in their learning environments. So
I love that so much too, because going back to the mindset of conscious capitalism, it sounds like it wasn't just about profits, right? It was really around the importance of purpose and why we're an organization to begin with, right?
What we do what we do takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of discipline. And if we can share that with you and you're willing to do it, then God bless you, go ahead and do it. But most people will not take the time, the effort to do the things that we've done here in so many different ways. Just if I sit there, our competitors at this point have to know why we're winning in the talent war. They have to know we're winning because of our commitment to grow people big and small. So why aren't they doing the same thing? They're not doing the same thing because we've been doing this for probably 12 years of this grow people big and small. And it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of capital, and it takes a lot of commitment. But at the end of that is all the joy. At the end of that is all the joy.
That makes it all work.
I can give you so many examples. Like I said, to see, my whole day is about helping people become entrepreneurs and helping people grow. I was on some calls earlier today with families that are looking to become Celebree franchise partners, and I need to talk them through that and ask them and making sure, listen, are you sure this is an industry that you can be passionate behind? Yes. Is this an industry, is this a brand that you would be proud of and say that I own a Celebree School? And then thirdly, is this a team of executives that can help you be successful? But all these families are looking for the same thing. They're looking to gain wealth for their family, create a legacy for their family, and make an impact on their community. And here at Celebree, they find that all here.
Yeah. He can do just that, right? And the joy makes it all work. Yeah.
We have two young ladies that started with us as assistant teachers in a classroom in our corporate locations. Through our Grow Big program and philosophy, they moved into lead teachers, became directors of our schools, and now I used to think a director of our school was like the crown jewel in the organization, but now both of those young ladies own their own Celebree schools.
Wow.
Own their own Celebree school. I'm talking life-changing decisions, life-changing. And I'm just super happy to be a part of that. Now, whether that's, life-changing through business, life-changing through a career, or life-changing through the classrooms, it's all huge impacts that we're making.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a win-win-win-win for, all the different stakeholders that are involved. So Richie, we talk a lot about the importance of purpose, here on this show. Growing people big and small sounds very, like perhaps your purpose. And I've been starting this new thing where I'd like to start asking the guests about the role of purpose in business. And just to emphasize, I think for our listeners, this piece, there was a study done a few years ago by Deloitte that found that organizations that had a purpose behind them were growing 3 times faster than their competitors. And then also that companies that were very clear on what their why was, we're seeing about a 30% increase in the customer loyalty in their businesses. So I'm sure, again, like those stats probably don't surprise you. And so my question, for you is, why is it important to have a clear purpose for your business? What would you help our listeners understand about that?
I think there's so many, but the first one that I think of is it's the only way that you can move forward. It's the only way that you can motivate people to work for you, for the organization. I mean, especially today, people want to know why. Like the old day, I always laugh at this when I go down there. You don't see it that often anymore. When you ride down the street, you see a sign that says "Help Wanted." Really? Like, people don't want jobs. People want to be a part of something. And we're doing something really, really special here. And as I just mentioned, at multiple levels. The first level of first of all, my team. I have a responsibility to elevate and my team to prosper. And then to help our franchise partners prosper, get out of the corporate world, take all the skills that they've developed in running teams inside of other brands or other corporate school or corporate locations, and apply that to our own business and create their own destiny, their own pathway, and invest in philanthropy, not what the company wants, but what they want as a family or as a community of owning it inside of a Celebree school. So again, I just this whole purpose that we have here of growing people big and small, it's not just something that's on our wall. It is something that's alive and well. I'm talking about conducting individual growth plans for our teams and for our teachers. I'm talking about classroom observations. I'm talking about really doing the hard work to make sure that everybody is growing inside of the organization and prospering.
Yeah, that's key. And I bet it's probably helped in a number of other ways. What do you get involved in? What decisions you make? Maybe even faster decision making, because there's things that you probably wouldn't even entertain, right? Because it just doesn't align.
Totally. Totally. We are laser focused guys. We know exactly where we're headed. We know exactly the type of franchise partners that we want to partner with. And as you mentioned, it even goes down to our teachers. When we interview teachers for our classrooms, we tell them, you're going to grow here. We're going to put you on a career path, and we're going to put you on a skill path. And what do you want to be here? And they've never heard this before. What do you mean, what I want to be here? I want to be the 3-year-old teacher. Okay, that's today, but do you have any other goals? And one thing that is one of our individual growth plans, which was what's amazing, not only your goals in your career, but your goals in your personal life. And I love that too. I remember a quick story. One of our executives here, and this is not our culture. Our culture is like, we just get it done and we do what it takes. I don't care what time you leave. I don't care what time you get here. I'm not here to watch the clock. I'm here on getting the results and accomplishing the strategy that you wrote. And this young lady every day would roll out at 4:00, almost like clockwork. And I'm like, that's not our culture. Until I realized that when her and I had her IGP, her individual growth plan, one of her personal goals was to become a stepmom, and didn't realize that she had to leave every day at 4:00 because she was in the process of becoming a parent, adopting a little girl. And man, once I knew that, now I can engage in really good, meaningful conversation. Right? Like as she's walking, I was like, good luck with today. And just how's it going? And really, get into the human side of people, and not just from a business perspective, but from a human side and a caring side. And, one of our executives here, one of her personal goals was to create an oasis for her family. And that included a new swimming pool. And so, I was constantly monitoring that. And how are you doing with creating that oasis in your backyard for your family? And I'm happy to say, today she has that oasis in her backyard. And I feel like, as the CEO here, I played a part in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And even at a personal level, it sounds like you created a human connection there by listening and empathizing, and it strengthened the connection there in that relationship. So I think that's a key.
And guys, that part of business is so critical because business is hard and business is demanding and it's not easy. And so if it's all 100% demanding and not easy and grind, that gets old after a while. So you got to have that. You got to have that other human side of empathy and consideration of others. And that comes in a lot of different ways. And just one of the ways that I do it here is through our IGPs, their individual growth plans, not only what your career goals, but what are your personal goals, and really understanding them and supporting them in that.
Richie, we're kind of telling some stories here, and that in our business, we know the power of storytelling, and not just for marketing, but really for building those lasting community connections too. So how has storytelling played a role in your school's growth and brand identity?
I think deep down inside, people want to know that you're a real person and you're not this CEO that wears sports jackets and right. They want to know who Richie is, and they want to know they want to know who is this guy that's leading this brand, whether it's a parent that's enrolling their child or it's a franchise partner that's looking to do business. They want to know who I am. I was in, I think it was Texas a couple months ago, and visiting some schools, and for the first time, my wife traveled with me, and we were at dinner, and one of the franchisees said, "It's so nice to see you with your wife." And I said, "What do you mean?" And they said, "It's so nice to see the other half and to see your relationship and to know that you're a father and to see that you're a husband." Oh, and because we always knew you were a CEO, but it's cool to see that you're a real person.
Yeah, I was going to say
And
that you're a real person, that you've got.
you're a real person, and you have real emotions, and you care. And a lot of times they want to know that, because if they like what they see, they want to be like that, and they know that you can help them achieve that. Through that. I remember when we were down in Texas also, and I remember one of our franchise partners, Rand, never forget it. He goes, you know what? He goes, I watched all your videos. He says, the best video I saw of you was when you were down on your farm in a pair of jeans and a baseball hat. And I go, what? And he goes, all you Northerners up there, you're always in a sports jacket and a suit. But it was so nice to see you on the farm in a pair of jeans and a baseball hat, because it made you real. And not really real, but I liked seeing the other side.
Yeah,
I like to see the other side of you, because some people would say to me, like, okay, you're this hard driving, grinding CEO. Do you have fun? Are you enjoying life? Like what do you do in your spare time? So they love to see me with our 5 kids. They love to see me out at a sporting event at the Ravens or in our box. They just want to know who is the person behind this that I'm entrusting, with my career or entrusting going in business with.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for other businesses out there, as far as, telling that story, whether through like digital platforms or, their marketing or anything? And we're talking about, stories you're telling, being real, being yourself, being authentic. But are you finding anything particularly effective as far as strategy that you'd recommend for others?
I think first you have to be that. You have to be that person. You have to be compassionate. You have to ask people and let them know it's not all about driving hard. So I think it's a fun balance, and I think I've had that balance for a long time, right? If I was strictly an educator, we probably would not have the business we have today. If I was strictly a hard grinding business person, we probably wouldn't have the business that we have today. So I think I've been able to balance that very, very well. As I mentioned, we're talking about children. We're talking about developing people. It's a very emotional conversation for me. I get emotional about even thinking about the impact that we're having on these children, on our teachers, on our franchise partners. We have a huge responsibility to our partners. They're entrusting us to help them and guide them in something that they've never done before. So I would just say, just to other business leaders, just there's a balance there. You can't be too loosey-goosey, if that's the right terminology. You have to be very certain and let the team know where we're headed, what role you play in this role. Your role is extremely important to us. We can't get there without you. And I think deep down inside, people just want to be a part of something really cool and exciting. And we're building something really cool and exciting here. And I think our people that are part of that are excited to be a part of that, and they want to be a part of it.
Yeah, to what you were saying there, or the way you were describing it, to me, it's almost like a movement in a way, right? And people want to be a part of a movement that creates positive change, for sure.
Totally. And again, I mean, we're doing something really, really cool here. I mean, through the Huffman family brands, it started out as just, one preschool in Ellicott City, Maryland. And now it's, we got up to 27 corporate locations. I found myself to be bored, and I was like, I'm bored. Let's do something cool. And that's why we started franchising and opened this up to other families that we believe will be great partners. Now we're in 17 different states. We just opened up number school 60, and not bored anymore. But this put us on this whole different path of helping others and growing people big and small. And I think we've always I personally have a burning desire to continue to make it better than it was. Where they say it's a constant never improvements that we're focused on, that I'm focused on, whether that's a constant never improvement of the journey that our franchise partners are on, our journey that our teachers are on, our journey that our children are on, or personally, to be honest with you, the journey that my family is on, right? Like I've taken a lot of these business principles, and this is probably for a different time, but I've taken a lot of these principles and these tools that make very successful companies, and I brought them to the Huffman family. And because the family is an enterprise, and especially when you have 5 children, it is an enterprise, and it should be viewed that way. So all of our kids, I don't say, and I'm not going to say they're on smart action plans, but they all have goals and objectives, as we do as a family. And we talk about them. We call them Huffman family huddles. We get together every quarter and we talk about it, just like I meet, once every 2 weeks with my executive team. We have those conversations. So I don't know. Once you find that passion, which we have, grow people big and small, it just goes in so many different. There's so many opportunities to then pour that philosophy into, whether it's here at work or it's home.
Yeah, I love it because it's specific, but it's also very broad, right? You can take it almost anywhere. So, and to your other point too, always saying there's no limit to better, right? So,
and that's what makes it fun, because we can take this anywhere. I'm just super excited of where we take it next. So, but I can tell you this, guys, we're having a lot of fun. We're making major impacts in many different ways through our franchise partnerships, through our teacher development, and through our children.
I love seeing those stories about like how something you're doing at work, people bring home and they're implementing that. That reminds me of Martha. Martha, I'm going to bring you on here. Here we go, Martha. I mean, she's done that more than once. Martha, you've got a question here for Richie. Go for it.
Yes, Richie, we're enjoying the show so much, but I have one question. So as you reflect on Celebree's growth, what's one leadership lesson that has had the biggest impact on your approach to business?
As I've gotten older, I think I have, and I think I probably got this lesson a little too late. It's just be patient. I mean, some things just need, and I even hate to say that because I'm such an impatient person, and I know, but it's just, some things just take time, and sometimes you're not. I mean, people ask, why did you start franchising now? Why didn't you do this years ago? We weren't ready. So some things, what's it say? When the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And I think it's such a great saying, because it really does. You can't rush certain things. It just has to play itself out. Once you master that, and once you get really good at it, the next great opportunity, if you're looking for it, and I'm constantly looking for it, maybe that's a secret too, is it will appear and you will be ready.
Good question, Martha.
Thank you.
Hey, so Richie, before we wrap, one question I always ask every guest is, what role do you think love plays in business?
I think love for me, my head went to compassion right away, right? Love and compassion for me. So it's just being compassionate. It's being compassionate for others. And sometimes you forget that. And sometimes you forget that, and I was really bad. It's still bad at this sometimes, of like, I've been thinking about this for days, and all of a sudden I go into somebody's office, I'm like, what about this? And you expect them to react like immediately. And you don't realize you've been thinking about this stuff for hours. And so you've really put this person in an unfair position, but you don't understand. You just put them in an unfair position. So I think as I've gotten older, I've become a lot more compassionate for others, and just, you think that everybody sees the world the way you see the world. And I realize not everybody sees the world. It's hard to believe, but everybody doesn't see the same thing I see. It's actually mind-blowing to me, but I do realize that now. And so it's just being compassionate for others' feelings, and not everybody thinks the way you think. Not everybody views the world the way you view the world. Not everybody can react as fast as you can react. And it's just realizing that, and at the end, it's going to be okay. Because I think, God gave me those abilities for a reason, and my job is now to implement and execute on the gifts and the views and the skills that He's given me. And not everybody has that ability to do so. As frustrating sometimes as it could be, but I look at it, I get through it as a blessing. Thank you for the blessings. Yeah. Now it's up to me to be patient and compassionate for others, and let them listen. And on the other end, they see things that are different than I, and there's huge value there. Just because they don't see it the way that I see it doesn't mean that there's not huge value or they shouldn't be a part of this team. So it's learning how to find that value. And we all need different value. And somebody told me a long time ago, he's like, Richie, if everybody thought the way you thought and acted the way you acted, they'd be you. And I was like, that's amazing. So just be Richie and let others be others, and together put together an amazing team to make an impact and a great impact on what we're doing.
That's great ways. Love shows up in so many different ways. So Richie, this has been a amazing conversation. We covered a lot from building community to purpose to the storytelling part. I think all of those points were super invaluable for our listeners today, and the ones that'll take this information or view the show later. Where can they learn a little bit more about the Celebree School and Huffman brands?
Sure. You can go directly to celebree.com, which is CELEBREE.com.
Perfect.
Thank you, Richie, for the conversation today. It's been great. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. If today's discussion inspired you, make sure to subscribe and share this episode. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and connection.